It's the first week of March, and a lot has happened in the world of aviation. We've had the Antonov An-225 be almost utterly destroyed at its home airport in Ukraine. We've had the so-called Ghost of Kyiv, a supposed fighter pilot, get the ace in a day by shooting down more than 6 fighters, now reportedly to be around 14 aircraft of the Russian forces, and Russian airlines themselves are facing an oncoming crisis thanks to sanctions and a devaluing Russian currency. Let's jump into it. So the first story here today is perhaps the most saddest story that I've ever had to report, is that the Antonov An-225, the only plane in existence and one of the largest aircraft flying in the world, has been destroyed. And we don't know how much trouble the Antonov company is in at the moment, but we have seen vision from Russian reporters who are operating behind the lines there in Ukraine, showing off the extent of the damage. Now, this aircraft was one of a kind. It was originally designed to carry the Russian equivalent of the space shuttle on its back between launch sites, and also had future plans to launch spacecraft themselves or space planes into outer space. So this aircraft is perhaps the last mega project from the Soviet Cold War. And this plane was used throughout the world to transport everything from vast machinery to engineering works, and to also medical supplies for the COVID pandemic that we recently had. So this aircraft, it's a big shame to see it be wiped away in a conflict that many are deeming unnecessary. And now Antonov, the company behind the aircraft, has come out and said that they're going to make Russia pay for a new version, and that they will rebuild this aircraft as part of the reconstruction of the country. Whether or not that comes true remains to be seen, as this conflict is still ongoing, obviously. But there is hope there, because there's actually a second An-225 that's roughly 60 to 70% complete. We're hoping that after this conflict is over, that someone will take that airframe and turn it back into a new super heavy lift transport. And as other channels have explained, such as Cody Explains, and I'll put a link up there in the description, Antonov needs to build this aircraft. There is plenty of demand for new An-225s or other super lift heavy craft around the world, that it being rebuilt is a top priority. Now, the second topic is going to be rather controversial. There has been reports of a Ukrainian fighter jet called the Ghost of Kyiv flying around and shooting down anywhere from 6 to 14 aircraft. However, this is probably more propaganda than it is actually a specific fighter. Whilst in the first day of conflict in Ukraine, 6 aircraft were shot down, it wasn't actually shot down by one pilot. In fact, this Ghost of Kyiv is more of an amalgamation of the entire Ukrainian Air Force coming together, and the rumors of that person's grandeur keep increasing more and more as more and more people hear it. Part of the controversy was footage being leaked that was actually from a computer game. The original creator of this footage said that they were just doing it as they were inspired by this rumor of the Ghost of Kyiv, but many other news outlets picked up on it without actually checking the source footage, and that's why we've now got this big sort of controversy about it. So at the end of the day, it's more of a propaganda puff piece during the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So many people have asked me to make comment about this fighter pilot getting ace in a day, which means you've shot down more than 5 enemy fighters in one day, but it's not actually that true. And yes, it is very hot here in the studio today, so I do apologize if I'm a little bit sweating. It's not because there's someone outside a frame who's making me talk about any topic in any specific way. The other big thing that is happening with Russia right now, whilst we're on that topic, is the economic sanctions. Part of these sanctions are that Boeing and Airbus are not sending spare parts to Russian airlines, and leasing companies airlines that have leased aircraft to Russia are starting to get worried that Russia's going to be unable to pay the leasing fees. So much so that aircraft have started to be repossessed by these leasing companies when the planes leave Russia. So we're probably going to see a mad dash as Russia tries to not send any aircraft internationally to where leasing companies may try to snatch them back. There is a rough rumor timeline that the Russian airlines have a roughly 3 to 4 weeks of fuel and spare parts left before they'll be effectively grounded. Not that they have anywhere really to fly, because everywhere outside of Russia, because much of the airspace outside of Russia is closed to Russian airlines. So you may start to see reports in the near future about these Russian airlines sort of struggling to stay in the air. And I really do feel for all the pilots, passengers, and employees of these Russian airlines who truly don't deserve this. And lastly, you're probably wondering where I've been. So basically, I've been working a lot on Found and Explained throughout December. I moved house, I've started to get this studio set up, and I will definitely get air conditioning for the next shoot. And I've realized that I'd very much like to return back to Aviation Station. So if you're new here, I'm going to be trying to do weekly videos about aviation and industry news, and also other topics in the world of aviation. And I can't wait to see you come along for the journey. So if you're new here, click that subscribe button, but if you're an old friend who's been waiting probably I think 6 or 7 months, then thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.